Let's begin by offering our respects to our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Taruvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so we welcome all of you to our weekly Bhagavad Gita classes. Thank you very much for joining. We have with us here today Aja, Divina, Disha Melwani, Divya, Hema, Jagriti, Karuna Jadwani, Kirti from Noida. I think she's joining us for the first time. Then we have Kumar, Lal and Mehak Melwani. Then we have Lavanya. Then we have Madhav, also I think joining for the first time. Then Manju, Meena Bharwani, N.C. Venkatchari. My parents are there. Then we have Ritu Lalwani. And I think that's Lavina under the name of Sagar. Then we have Sri Hari Radha, Shivani, and Vivansh. Okay. So, in the previous class, we finished with chapter number
8.
Yes. So, in chapter 8, Krishna explained how we can attain him. No, attaining the Supreme is the title of chapter number 8. Now, chapter number 9 is titled The Most Confidential Knowledge. One second, let me share my Veda base and let's try to understand the flow of the past few chapters. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. See, when we know that the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita deal exclusively with Bhakti Yoga. So in chapter 7, if you see chapter 7, here Krishna has discussed material manifestations, no? So he spoke about his material energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then he also spoke about his superior energy. And then after discussing these two energies, Krishna said that he is the source of all that is material and spiritual. He said how all created beings have their source in these two natures. So then Krishna says, I am the origin and the dissolution. So basically, in the 7th chapter, Krishna has spoken about how he has spoken about material, spiritual, and then he's spoken about how he's the source of both material and spiritual. Now, towards the end of this chapter 7, Krishna said, Krishna glorified Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna said how one can understand Krishna if we understand him as the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all the sacrifices. So basically what Krishna is, here what Krishna did was he used some technical terms like Adi Bhuta, Adi Daiva, Adi Yagya. Yes. And so then Arjuna had a question. He is asking what is the meaning of these technical terms. And then Arjuna asked a question, how can we know you at the time of death? So then for the rest of chapter 8, Krishna has answered this particular question of Arjuna, how to know him at the time of death. So now, in the beginning of chapter 9, Krishna is continuing to glorify pure Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so this is to understand a little bit about the flow. We discussed how chapter 7 Krishna is speaking without being prompted by any question from Arjuna, right? It is directly flowing from his heart. So like that, this whole section of Bhakti Yoga, if you see starting from chapter 7 here, chapter 7 is, there is no question from Arjuna. And then chapter 8, Arjuna is asking the meaning of this technical terms, which also shows that Arjuna is a very attentive student. As soon as he hears some terms which he does not understand, immediately he is inquiring from Krishna. And then again for the whole chapter, it is only Krishna who is speaking. Now again, chapter 9, Krishna is going to continue to glorify Bhakti Yoga. And here he is talking exclusively about pure Bhakti Yoga. And it is also starting without Arjuna asking any question. So this is one thing about chapter 9 that we need to understand. That this chapter also, Krishna is speaking without being prompted, without Arjuna asking about how to practice Bhakti Yoga. Krishna himself is explaining this subject matter. Okay. So today we start chapter 9 titled The Most Confidential Knowledge. It has 34 verses. Very, very important chapter. But of course, before that, we need to see what is the Falashruti, or what are the benefits of reading, reciting, learning, understanding this particular chapter. So the Falashruti we know from Gita Mahatmya. Gita Mahatmya is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. Lord Shiva is glorifying every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and he's explaining why one should learn, read, understand this particular chapter. So Lord Shiva is describing that there is a town called Mahishmati on the banks of the river Narmada. And in that town, there was a Brahmin called Madhava. Now, this Brahman Madhava, he had all Brahmanical qualities. He would follow all the Vedic injunctions, and whatever charity he received, he would use that to perform yagyas. And like that, one day he had accumulated a lot of charity and wealth. And with that charity and wealth, he started to perform a very big, opulent, great yagya. Now, in that yagya, he wanted to sacrifice a goat. So that goat was brought, and as they were cleaning and bathing the goat and preparing the goat for sacrifice, the goat started to laugh, and then the goat began to speak. So the goat is saying, "Oh Brahmana, what is the use of doing so many yagyas? These yagyas also simply bind us to the circle of birth and death. Then just see what is my position after doing so many yagyas," the goat is saying. So the goat is saying, just look at my state after doing so many yagyas. So now this Brahman, Madhava, he starts to inquire from the goat. He is asking the goat, how did you get this body of a goat? How did you become a goat? And what caste you belong to in your previous life? And what activities did you perform previously? So then the goat, now he starts to describe his previous birth. The goat says that in my previous lifetime, I was born in a pure Brahmana family, and I very carefully performed all the ritualistic activities that are given in the Vedas. Now, once my child was diseased, and my wife requested me to bring one goat and sacrifice the goat for the worship of goddess Durga, so that my child can be cured of the disease. And as we were sacrificing the goat at Durga's temple, the goat cursed me. The goat cursed and said, "Because of you, my children will be fatherless. Therefore, I curse you that you also will take birth as a goat." So here I am in the body of the goat. And but then I have a special mercy. By the special mercy of the Lord, I am able to remember my past life, the goat is saying. Then the goat goes on to say that I have one more interesting story to narrate. If you wish, I can narrate that story to you. So now the goat begins to narrate another story. So the goat says that in Kurukshetra, there was a king called Chandra Sharma of the Sun dynasty. Once during the solar eclipse, the king wished to give a Shudra in charity to a Brahmana, along with other things. So the king, along with his priest, they went to a sacred lake, and the Shudra, he was also brought that the Shudra was bathed, was given a clean cloth to put on, sandalwood paste was applied, and like this, he returned to the place. The king, along with the Shudra and the priest, they returned to the place with great devotion. They presented all the charity to a Brahmin. Now, after he presented all his charity, suddenly from the body of the Shudra, one very sinful Chandala. What's a Chandala? Anybody knows?
Chandala is a
Yes.
person who I think he kills, right? He kills like animals or something. Or Chandal is, yeah, right? Someone who kills animals, someone who kills anything. Like Chandals are also found in Nark Lok or something like that. They're very
Okay,
brutal people.
okay,
Are they not? They're just killers, right?
okay. Chandala definition given
Dog
is
eater.
they are dog eaters. Okay, they are dog eaters specifically. So one very sinful Chandala appeared, and after some time, a female Chandala also appeared from the body of the Shudra. So together they went close to the Brahmana's body. Immediately the Brahmana did something. What do you think the Brahmana did?
He cursed them
No,
or gave him a
He
blessing.
He
no.
recited the 8th chapter, 9th
He
chapter.
recited the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Remember, we are reading the Falashruti, the benefits of reading, reciting, learning this particular chapter. So this Brahmana, he immediately started to recite the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. As soon as he started to recite this, the Vishnu Dutas appeared and they chased away these two Chandalas. Okay, and the Brahmana was completely undisturbed. The Brahmana was not hassled when he saw this male and female Chandala approaching him. He was completely undisturbed and he started to recite the 9th chapter. And then, as we discussed, the Vishnu Dutas appeared and chased away the 2 Chandalas. Now the king has inquired from the Brahmana, who were these 2 people and what were you chanting? Which deity did you remember? So then the Brahmana said that these 2 people were actually Papa Purusha, or sin personified. The male Chandala was sin personified and the female Chandala was offense personified. And I started chanting the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and I remembered the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. Then the king also learned the 9th chapter from the Brahmana and recited it daily. And in time, he attained the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, who is the central character of our story? We began the story from which character? Who remembers?
From a Brahmana.
Yeah, what was his name?
Chandra Kumar.
No.
Madhava.
Madhava, yes, very nice. So now this central character, the Brahman Madhava, also released the goat. Remember, he was about to sacrifice a goat in that yagya. So he releases the goat and engages in reciting the 9th chapter of the Gita daily. And he also attained the lotus feet of Lord Govinda at death. So what is the falashruti or the benefit of learning, reading, reciting this particular chapter? It releases one from all fearful situations in life. One remains untouched by papa and aparad, and one can attain the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. Okay. So what is the connection between chapter 8 and chapter 9? At the end of the 8th chapter, Krishna explained that his devotee fixed solely upon him, Ananya Bhakti, right? Ananya Bhakti, not distracted by anything else, only fixed upon him. Such a person can surpass both the path of light and path of darkness. You may recall at the end of chapter 8 in the last section how Krishna is speaking about the auspicious and inauspicious times of leaving the body, and how a devotee does not have to worry about whether the time of passing away is auspicious or inauspicious, because if a devotee is engaged in pure devotional service, then it does not matter what time he leaves the body. He will be able to attain Krishna. Now in chapter 9, Krishna will explain how, without being prompted by Arjuna, how one can become an Ananya Bhakta. So this starts with hearing. See, the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the scriptures. Essence of all the Shastras is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, what is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita? Which section of the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita?
Middle 6 chapters.
Middle 6 chapters. And what is the essence of the middle 6 chapters?
9th
Bhakti.
chapter.
Yes, chapter 9, chapter 8 and chapter 9, because they are appearing in the middle. I'm sorry, chapter 9 and chapter 10. So chapter 9 deals with the most confidential knowledge, or Ananya Bhakti. Now, why is chapter 9 called as a most confidential knowledge? Now, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential knowledge. So, most confidential knowledge is pure bhakti. See, chapter 2 and chapter 3, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, is guhya, is confidential knowledge. In these chapters, Krishna is explaining the knowledge of the spirit, soul, and body, which is useful for liberation, useful for mukti. Then 7 and 8 are called guhya tara, more confidential knowledge. So here, Krishna is explaining knowledge which brings about enlightenment about Krishna consciousness, Supreme Lord, and his energies, useful for attaining Krishna. We saw how in chapter 7, Krishna is describing the material energies and the spiritual energies. Then chapter 9 is Guhya Tamam, most confidential. It deals with Ananya Kevala or Akinchana Bhakti, pure unalloyed devotion, and delineates the glories of the Lord. So Guhya, Guhya Tara, and Guhya Tamam, confidential, more confidential, and most confidential knowledge. So confidential knowledge is useful for liberation. More confidential knowledge is useful for attaining Krishna. Most confidential knowledge is useful for attaining what? What is higher than attaining Krishna?
Bhakti.
Mukti.
Bhakti, isn't it? Why is bhakti higher than attaining Krishna also? When we say bhakti here, we are talking about pure bhakti. See, when we talk about attaining Krishna can mean realizing the Brahman effulgence, realizing Paramatma, or realizing Bhagavan. Attaining Krishna can mean any one of the five mellows, we have discussed how there are five relationships, five mellows with which one can connect with Krishna. Shanta rasa, the five rasas. So it can mean any one of those five rasas. But pure devotional service means one is attaining the spontaneous love for Krishna. One can attain Goloka. Even attaining Brahma Jyoti is attaining Krishna, because Brahma Jyoti also is one aspect of the absolute truth. But when one has pure devotional service, then one can attain spontaneous love, spontaneous devotion to Krishna. So therefore, attaining pure love for Krishna is even higher than attaining Krishna. Therefore, this chapter is titled The Most Confidential Knowledge. See, these verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita establish how being a pure devotee of the Lord is the highest position. See, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So he writes, the position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. O Uddhava, neither Brahma, nor Shankara, nor Sankarshana, nor Lakshmi, not even my own self is as dear to me as you. So here the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he is quoting from the Uddhava Gita. So this particular verse is actually spoken by Krishna, where Krishna is saying that nobody is dearer to, he's saying that his devotees are dearer to him than he himself is. No, O Uddhava, neither Brahma nor Shankar nor Sankarshana nor Lakshmi, not even my own self is as dear to me as you. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. So if one thinks that he is equal to Krishna, one will not be able to taste the sweetness that one can experience when one is acting in the position of a servant of Krishna. This conclusion of the revealed scriptures is also the realization of experienced devotees. Fools and rascals, however, cannot understand the opulences of devotional emotions. Baladev, Lakshmana, Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Shesha, and Lord Sankarshana taste the nectarian mellows of the transcendental bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and servants. They are all mad with that happiness and they know nothing else. What to speak of others? Even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. So Lord Krishna himself is thirsty to taste his own sweetness. So therefore, he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. See here, he tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of a devotee. Therefore, Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee and descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee. I have formally explained this conclusion. So, say even Lord Krishna, in order to understand the sweetness that a devotee goes through, no, that ecstasy, that happiness of being a servant of the Lord. In order to taste that, Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He comes in the mood of a devotee. He comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani. See here this very nice verse again from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami is speaking. He's saying, my dear king, the supreme person Mukunda is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. So what is Sukadeva Goswami talking about? Sukadeva Goswami is talking to Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit, of course, he is the grandson of he is the son of Abhimanyu and the grandson of Arjuna. And he's talking about how Lord Krishna has served his dynasty as a messenger or as a servant. When Krishna went to the Pandavas as a peace messenger, he was serving them as a messenger. No? And when he's driving the chariot of Arjuna, he's serving them as a servant. So like this, Sukadeva Goswami is saying that he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. So Krishna can even give mukti, liberation, very easily, but he will not very easily give the opportunity to render seva, to render direct service to Krishna. Why? Because when we render service to Krishna, we are able to bind Krishna. Krishna can be brought under control by pure devotional service. So therefore, the Lord can even grant liberation very easily, but not so easily he will give the opportunity to render service. Therefore, when we get the opportunity to do any seva, when we get the opportunity to render service, we should remember that this is a special mercy of Lord Krishna, and we should grab it with both our hands. We should not let it go. As far as possible, we should execute that particular seva. See, Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport of this particular verse, very nice purport. He writes how there are two dynasties at that time. No, one is a Yadu dynasty and the other is a Kuru dynasty. They were existing parallelly at that time. Now, which of the two dynasties is more glorious? In one dynasty, Lord Krishna appears, and in one dynasty, Lord Krishna is serving as a servant. In the Yadu dynasty, Krishna appeared, and in the Kuru dynasty, Krishna is serving as a servant. So which of the two dynasties is more glorious? Srila Prabhupada explains that the Kuru dynasty is more glorious than the Yadu dynasty, because here Krishna is serving, no? Like a servant, he is serving them. It's more glorious than appearing in that dynasty. So 7 and 9, these two chapters have a lot of similarities. Hearing from Krishna, then the relationship between Krishna and material nature, Krishna's potency manifested with matter. You can actually do this as a self-study. You take your chapter 7 and chapter 9. You can compare these particular verses and you can see how there are a lot of similarities between these two chapters. See, just as how chapter 3 and chapter 5 are dealing with Karma Yoga. Chapter 3, Krishna spoke about Karma Yoga, is titled Karma Yoga, and chapter 5 is titled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So, whatever Krishna described in chapter 3, he went on to explain in great detail in chapter 5, same subject matter. Same way, chapter 7 and chapter 9 are connected. He described chapter 7, in chapter 7, he described Bhakti Yoga, and in chapter 9, he goes on to elaborate it further. So we see here this chapter is divided into 5 sections. As we proceed, we will see them. Section 1 deals with the qualifications and disqualifications to receive this most confidential knowledge. We need a volunteer to read. Who can read today? Nobody wants to read most confidential knowledge?
I can read again.
Okay, thank you, Aja. Let's hear the shloka.
अथ नवमोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे शुभान्.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence."
So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that he is going to give him this knowledge because Arjuna is never envious of him. So here Krishna is revealing what is the qualification for one to be able to understand or for one to receive this most confidential knowledge. What is it? That one should not be envious of the Lord. What is he going to give him? Krishna says that I will give you jnana and vijnana. He is going to give confidential knowledge as well as realization of that knowledge. Jnana and vijnana. Jnana is knowledge. Vijnana is the application of that knowledge or the realized knowledge. We will discuss this further. And then Krishna discusses what is the benefit of receiving this confidential knowledge and realization. The benefit of that is one will be relieved from the miseries of material existence. So what are the qualifications? What is it that Krishna is going to give? And what is the benefit of receiving this knowledge? Krishna is saying in first verse. So Krishna is saying hearing, no? Proper hearing is the means to obtain the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna is going to speak and Arjuna has to hear. So we have discussed this, how knowledge is received in disciplic succession in the Guru Parampara. One receives knowledge from the spiritual master from his spiritual master, and like that it goes all the way to Krishna. All knowledge comes from Krishna. Now Krishna says that he is going to reveal this knowledge to Arjuna because he is non-envious. Non-envious means a person is a devotee, because a devotee is not envious of the Lord. He is not envious of the position of the Lord. He does not want to become God. He does not want to become equal to God. Now one may think that why is it that Krishna reveals his glories only to those who are devotionally pious? Is Krishna playing favorites? Is he taking sides? Is he not neutral? Does the Lord not love everyone equally? So
Others will not be able to receive or hear the glories if envy is there in the heart.
Yes, if we will not be able to receive, we will not be able to understand if there is envy in the heart. So actually Krishna is being merciful by not revealing this knowledge to those who are envious, isn't it? See, because the more a devotee hears his glories, the more his attraction for Krishna increases. So why doesn't Krishna reveal his glories to those who are envious? Because the envious will become even more envious and offensive and create further misery and spiritual misfortune for themselves. So Krishna doesn't want the envious to become more offensive and create further misery and spiritual misfortune. So it is Krishna's mercy that he is not revealing this knowledge to the envious. See the effect of hearing Krishna's glories. If one is non-envious of Krishna, then one will be more attracted to him. And because of increasing attraction to him, one attains pure devotion to him and attains his pure abode. But if one is envious of the Lord, then one becomes increasingly averse to Krishna. One hates him even more. One is thinking more against the Lord. So what happens? One will become deluded and stay lost for many lifetimes because one is being offensive. So therefore, Krishna does not want this to happen, and therefore Krishna is not revealing this knowledge to the envious. Envy means we burn because of Krishna's glory. Devotion means we rejoice in Krishna's glory. So non-enviousness is the qualification to hear properly. By stating that knowledge of his glories is not meant for the envious, Krishna is not depriving them. He is only protecting them. Now coming to what Krishna is going to reveal, jnana and vijnana. As we discussed, jnana is the knowledge that one receives through disciplic succession or through Guru Parampara. And Vijnana is the application of that knowledge. So Krishna provides both knowledge and the realization. When we apply that knowledge, then we get realizations. We see how it actually works. Just as how when we do an experiment in the laboratory, one may read in the books, okay, you mix this liquid with this salt and you will get this result. So one can read that theoretically, but when one actually does the experiment in the laboratory, and then one can see the results for himself. So like that, Krishna gives you jnana and vijnana. He gives you realizations when one applies that knowledge which we receive through Guru Parampara. Now, which of the two is more important, jnana or vijnana?
Both, right?
Both are important. Why?
You have to apply what you learned.
Okay, we have to apply what we learn. And why do we need jnana?
Why do we need
Applying what we learn is vijnana. And why is jnana important?
to live, to have
No, to learn.
To learn, yes. We have to learn and then only we can apply what we learn. No, if we don't learn, then how can we apply it? So both are important. Both are equally important. See, for example, if we compare the living entity to a diseased patient, then jnana is the diagnosis. First the doctor has to diagnose what is the problem, what is the disease. Only then the doctor can treat the disease appropriately. So vijnana is the prescription that the doctor gives after the diagnosis of the disease. So both are important. Without diagnosis, if there is only diagnosis and no prescription, then how will the patient be cured? And how can there be a prescription if there is no diagnosis? So correct diagnosis is also important and the correct prescription is also important. Srila Prabhupada writes that religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So we need both. Srila Prabhupada never said that you can blindly follow what we are teaching you. So religion and philosophy both are equally important. So what differentiates spiritualists from materialists is not absence of pain, but the presence of healing. Let's try to understand with an example. Now we saw how the material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. It is a place full of miseries and it is a temporary place. Now this material world can be compared to a hospital. Everyone in this world has to sooner or later bear the brunt of the world's distressful nature. So no matter who we are, because we are in Dukhalayam Ashashvatam, there are bound to be miseries. There are bound to be anxieties. Now let's consider two patients who are both sick and in pain. The materialist is undiagnosed and untreated because a materialist does not even recognize that he is spirit soul. So he is just engrossed in enjoying materially. He's just engrossed in making money and living his social life. So he's undiagnosed. He does not even know that he's materially diseased, and therefore there is no treatment. But a spiritualist has been diagnosed and he is being treated. So a spiritualist is someone who recognizes that, yes, I'm in this material world. I do not belong here. No. And therefore he approaches a doctor. He approaches a spiritual master, and now the spiritual master gives him the prescription. Chant the holy name, follow the regulative principles. In ISKCON, chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles. So a spiritualist has been diagnosed and is being treated. Now both of them are in pain, but then the future of each one of them is different. What is the future of a materialist? The materialist, the one who's not being treated, his disease will remain or he will become even more sicker. But the spiritualist, because he's undergoing treatment, very soon he will return to health. So the spiritualist is going to go back home, back to Godhead. But an undiagnosed materialist, he remains sick. So he remains in this material world and he may end up performing more and more sinful activities, or he may be more and more offensive as time goes, or he may continue to remain in that state. Okay, so although both are living in this material world, and both from the external angle of vision, both have to go through disease, old age, and death, but the future is different for both of them. So here is a summary. Let's go to second verse.
Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitramidamuttamam Pratyakshabagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartumavyayam.
Translation. This knowledge is the king of education, the most sacred of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed.
So here Krishna is glorifying this knowledge. What is Krishna saying? He's saying that this is Raja Vidya. This is the king of education. King of education means there is no education better than this. You will not get better philosophy than this anywhere. King of education. See, one may drop an atom bomb, and an atom bomb can destroy a whole city, or maybe more than one city, several cities. But this atom bomb cannot change the heart of a sinful person. But this particular knowledge has the potency to change the heart of sinful people. It can completely transform one. It can completely remove all the impurities in the heart. So that transformation can be possible only with this most confidential knowledge. The transformation cannot happen with even the most powerful thing in the material world. So this is the king of education. It's Raja Guhyam, most secret of all secrets. So this we've already discussed, why this is the most secret of all secrets. Then it is the purest knowledge, Pavitram. Let's see. See, it is called Pavitram because it has the potency to remove the sinful reactions from the past. It is so pure that it can remove the dormant sinful activities from the past. See, there are different stages of dormant reaction to sinful activities. So we get reactions to the sinful activities that we have done in the past. Now, those reactions come in stages. It's not that we get everything immediately. In this lifetime, we may be suffering of the reactions that we have done, maybe in this lifetime, or maybe in the previous lifetime, or maybe in the past millions of lifetimes. So these reactions come in different stages, right? So see, there are different stages of dormant reactions to sinful activities to be observed in a sinful life. Sinful reactions may be just waiting to take effect, means it's coming soon. Falon mukha it is called. So those reactions which are coming soon, just waiting to take effect, it's called falon mukha. Then reactions may be still further dormant in the kuta stage, which they are still dormant, but they will come over a period of time. And all reactions that may be in a seed-like state, bija, they are still in the seed form. So it is still far away. These reactions will come, but they are still pretty distant. In all cases, all types of sinful reactions are vanquished one after another if a person engages in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. So it doesn't matter whether the reactions are in the bija state or in the kuta stage or in the falonmukha stage. This most confidential knowledge, it can remove, or devotional service can remove the reactions no matter what stage it is in. See, prarabdha refers to sinful reactions from which one is suffering at the present. For example, the current body that we have. Now, if we have a body that is giving us problem, or it is good, whatever it is because of our good or bad activities in the past. If we have a diseased body, or if we have an ugly body, or if one is born with certain defects, one is born blind, it's a reaction of the past sinful activities. So that is prarabdha karma, the karma that we are suffering at the present. So aprarabdha karma refers to sources of potential suffering. In the future, the reaction is going to come. Seeds have not yet been fructified, but they will fructify over a period of time. So these seeds of sinful reaction are unseen, but they are unlimited, and no one can trace when they were first planted. Now, as we discussed, whatever stage of sinful reaction one may be in, the reactions may be in, the potency of devotional service is such that everything can be wiped out. The slate can be completely wiped clean. It fries the seeds of sinful reactions. You know, the seed, if you fry the seed, then the seed will not fructify. The seed will remain. If you sow a fried seed in the ground, it will never fructify. It will never grow into a plant or a tree. So like that, devotional service fries the seeds of sinful reactions. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. So this uprootment can be done only by discharging devotional service. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Then Krishna says that this is pratyaksha vagamam. This gives direct perception of the self by realization. Let's read from the purport. The execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. So one can see the results of doing this devotional service. He can himself see the results, right? He can perceive it, he can feel it, he can see the results. Any person who is chanting Hare Krishna without offenses feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. So what is a direct perception that this devotional service gives us? It gives us pleasure and it also purifies us. Anyone who's chanting the holy name can tell you how it gives pleasure to the person and how the person feels purified. Now, no more the person feels pleasure in the lower things that the person was engaged in previously. See, before one comes to Krishna consciousness, maybe someone would derive great pleasure from assisting in parties or engaging in sports or watching a cricket match or earning a lot of money, you know. But once one comes to Krishna consciousness, then one does not feel that feel pleasure in those activities any longer. Anyone who chants offenselessly can tell you this. And also how one feels pleasure when one is chanting. So pleasure and purity are the two things that Srila Prabhupada here is explaining how one can directly see the results for himself. Otherwise, so many thousands of devotees all over the world, they are not going to waste their time. They're not going to waste their precious time chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 16 rounds every day. They're not going to be doing it unless they don't see the effects of it. So obviously they see the pleasure and the purity and therefore they continue doing it. Otherwise, who's going to waste time doing something? See, somebody chants Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola for 2 hours. Nothing is going to come out of it. You think the person will be able to chant that Coca-Cola for 2 hours every day over so many periods of so many years, so many decades devotees are chanting? It's not going to happen. It's very soon the person will give it up. But we have had devotees who are chanting for so many years, obviously because they can feel the pleasure and they can see how they are purified. He gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. So one does not need any education or prior qualification to engage in pure bhakti. Anyone, anywhere, any place, anytime can engage in devotional service. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. One does not have to artificially try to give up sinful activities. If one starts to engage in devotional service, one takes to the chanting of the holy name, everything else will come automatically. Everything else automatically follows. We don't have to artificially endeavor to give up our bad habits. It comes as a byproduct of chanting the holy name. Then Krishna says dharmyam. Dharmyam means it tells you what is the highest religious duty. So what is the highest religious duty of the human being? See this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So the supreme occupation, dharmyam, the supreme dharma for all human beings is to attain unmotivated, uninterrupted, loving devotional service. If we do not do our duty, which we have to do in this human body, then in the next lifetime, this human body will be taken away from us. Because we have not used the human body the way we are supposed to use it. And once we lose the human body, we go down to animal body, insect body, then we know that there are 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies that one has to transmigrate through before one can get this precious human body again. So let's not waste this opportunity that we have got. Let us use this human body to realize the highest religious duty. Now, one may say, okay, religious duties, if certain religions are more liberal than other religions in their tenets, can they also be called bona fide? Because there are some religions in which one has to surrender more, sacrifice more. Some religions, one doesn't have to sacrifice so much. So are they all bona fide? Is there no difference? Or is everything else bogus and only our path is pure? How to understand this? See, let us try to understand. The Lord comes in many forms, or he may send his messengers to preach to different sections of the people based on time, place, and circumstances. So it's not that the Lord is only going to appear in India. It's not that he's only going to preach to the Hindus. No, he can come in many forms and he can send his messengers to preach to different people in different parts of the world. And the person preaches according to time, place, and circumstances. So any bona fide religion can take you from one point to another point. So if this is the goal, we know that the supreme goal, dharma, is pure devotional service. So any bona fide religion can take you from one point to another point towards the goal. But to what extent one wants to engage in sense gratification, at the same time worship Bhagavan, may decide which religion one may want to follow. So certain paths, certain bona fide religions expect you to surrender fully. That is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us. No, surrender fully, and that is what is Krishna's also conclusion in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, last chapter, Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja. Give up all varieties of religion and simply surrender unto me. But some others, because of time, place, and circumstances, they are not yet ready to fully surrender. So therefore, the preachers, they will preach according to time, place, and circumstances. Now, depending on how much we want to engage in sense gratification and also worship the Lord, if we want to enjoy more sense gratification, but at the same time, we want the Lord as well, but the desire for sense gratification is greater than the desire to worship the Lord, then one is on this path, but far away. Probably one is at point B. If one reduces his desire for sense gratification and there is more desire to worship the Lord, then one is progressing more from B, C, D, E, and F. Srila Prabhupada said that if you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, you can go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. So here you are closest to the goal at the end of this lifetime itself. No more births and deaths. But if one is still engaged in sense gratification, at the same time, there is some desire, there is some element of bhakti. But there is more, how much sense gratification versus how much bhakti, that determines how far away you are from the goal. It's going to take more lifetimes. It may take probably few more million lifetimes also. So where you are, how close you are to the goal depends on how much you're willing to surrender, how much you are away from sense gratification. So the religion that Krishna is talking about here is Hinduism. Is the Bhagavad Gita only for the Hindus? When Krishna says most confidential knowledge, when Krishna is talking about pure devotional service, is he talking about Hinduism?
No.
No.
What is he talking about?
Sanatanism for all.
Yes, Sanatan Dharma is an eternal religious principle. Eternal means it is for all times and it is also for everyone across all people all across the world. It's not that only for the Hindus or only for Hinduism. Actually, there is no word called Hinduism. There is no such. See, the word Hindu was given by the invaders. The Persians, when they invaded India, they called the part of the subcontinent which is on the other side of the Sindhu River. We know that the Sindhu River is flowing on the northwest part of India, of the subcontinent. So the whole geographical area, all the people who lived on the other side of the Sindhu River, they referred to them as Sindhus at that time because they were not able to pronounce Sanatan Dharma or whatever. So therefore, they were referred to as Sindhus. Then over a period of time, those Sindhus became Hindus. So that's where the word Hinduism comes from. But actually, there is no religion called Hinduism. It's Sanatan Dharma, eternal religious principle. Then Krishna says, okay, it's again coming back to Dharmyam. So this process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he explains how Narada Muni in his previous lifetime, he was a son of a maid servant. Now, he did not have any formal education. He did not go to school, Srila Prabhupada says, but he was able to also attain perfection. How? By association. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. So even if one has never studied the Vedas, he has never been educated, just by associating with great acharyas, one can attain perfection. So how Srila Prabhupada explains this Narada Muni story? Now, Narada Muni in his previous lifetime was a son of a maid servant. So he never went to school. He never received formal education. But the mother used to serve other sages. So these great sages, they would visit, and at that time the mother would wash the vessels and she would serve these great sages. And these great sages would give their remnants to Narada, the kid Narada. He was a small child. This is before he became the great sage Narada Muni, okay, the previous lifetime. So they would give his remnants to this child Narada, and Narada would, just by eating the remnants of the great sages and by the association of these great sages, he attained perfection. Very soon his mother also died. And usually, say if a small child, he didn't have a father, and then his mother also had an untimely death. So an ordinary child would be completely disoriented, But Narada Muni, because he had received the association of these great sages, he was able to realize the Paramatma feature of the Lord. And then in the next lifetime, he became the great sage Narada Muni. See, Narada Muni is saying, he's explaining, I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses and I was strictly following them with body and mind. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who were very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. So like this, because of the instruction he received from these great personalities, he was able to follow their instructions and realize the Paramatma feature of the Lord. See here, he's realizing the Paramatma feature. Then Krishna says that this knowledge is susukham. Susukham means it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. It is not only sukham, it is susukham. It is joyfully performed without any difficulty. So there is no reason, there is no excuse why one cannot execute devotional service. So this is a Brahmana. He was a poor Brahmana. He did not have resources to opulently worship the Lord, but he had the desire to opulently worship the Lord. So he would do what is called as mental meditation, Manasa Puja. Manasa Puja. In his mind, he would very opulently worship the Lord. So one day he was preparing a very opulent feast. He made a very opulent food in order to offer to the Lord in his mind. He's not actually doing it in his mind. So he goes to purchase and then he cooks and everything. And then he wants to check if the offering is not very hot, because when we offer to the Lord, we don't offer very hot. No, it should be of a temperature in which one can eat. So he tests the temperature by putting his finger in the preparation to see if the temperature is good enough for the offering, and his finger actually burnt. Actually, he saw that his finger is in his mind only, in his meditation, in his Manasa Puja, he is checking the temperature of that food that he has prepared in his mind. But actually, his finger was burnt. So the Lord accepts your offerings even if you do it mentally, Manasa Puja, in your mind. So such is the glory of devotional service. Who cannot engage in devotional service? Nobody has any excuse. So here Srila Prabhupada explains this particular pastime. You can read it when we share the slides in the group. See, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada therefore comments on the words Sarvatra Sarvada. So see this verse here. This verse here says Sarvatra Sarvada. In the sense that the principles of Bhakti Yoga or the devotional service to the Lord are apt in all circumstances. That is, Bhakti Yoga is recommended in all the revealed scriptures. It is performed by all the authorities. It is important in all the places. It is useful in all causes and effects, etc. So Bhakti is Sarvatra Sarvada. It can be carried out by anyone, anytime, under any circumstances, at any place, under any condition. There is no excuse for one not to engage in Bhakti. So, Sukham. Then Krishna says it is avyayam. It is always going to exist. It is eternally existing. There, once you engage in any devotional service, it is there with you eternally. It is there with you forever. Now, even if you want to come out of it, you will not be able to come out of it. Once it is gone, it's gone. It's there with you. Okay. So devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Srila Prabhupada explains in this pulpit. So it's like a transcendental mafia. No, in the mafia, you can go in, because you want to go in. By your own free will, you enter into mafia, but you cannot come out of it. So devotional service also is like that. You start off out of your own free will, but once you get into devotional service, you cannot come out of it. It is there with you forever. So see, this Krishna is, so this devotee is saying it is too hard, I want to quit. But then Krishna says, you started the process, now no quitting. I'm going to drag you to the goal. So Krishna, even if we want to give up, Krishna will always guide us, help us, and take us to our destination. That is the glory of devotional service. So see, there are some contradictions here. Devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Okay, one side we learn this. But on the other side, we also learn that the Lord provides the field of material nature in which we exercise our free will. So on one side, there is our free will, right? We choose whether we want it or no. We are... Nobody can force us. Even Krishna does not force us, because Krishna says you all have minute independence and you have to use your free will to realize God. And on the other side, we are learning that one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. So how to reconcile this contradiction?
Mataji, sometimes the Lord allows to fulfill the desire that finally we give up the desire only. Like we lose the taste of it.
Yes, the Lord acts in such a way that we ourselves now desire that we don't want to have any more material desires. No, so the Lord creates such circumstances that we use our free will in the appropriate way. Very nice. Thank you. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of material existence because he is rasagraha, one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruitive workers who are always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi suffers the result of his own fruitive reactions, whereas a devotee is reformed by chastisement directed by the Lord himself. So if a devotee, after doing some devotional service, if he falls down, he should not be compared to another ordinary person who has fallen down. What is the difference between the two? A karmi, he is suffering because of his own reactions, but a devotee is going through that as a cleansing activity. By giving the devotee some suffering, some punishment, some chastisement, then the devotee is undergoing some purification. So that devotee is under the shelter of the Lord as compared to a karmi. So the sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruitive workers. The fruitive workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange of devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord Himself. As a special favor, He may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all his friends and relatives, and so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord and is set right to execute his devotional service. So the Lord will create a situation wherein the devotee, the devotee who has strayed away, is forced to come back on track. Very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Once one begins devotional service, Krishna will eventually create a circumstance where the fallen devotee will have no other recourse but to resume devotional service. Krishna, being merciful, does not allow a devotee who has fallen down to enjoy the material world. He arranges special circumstances that allows a devotee to come to his senses. He materially frustrates the devotee so that at some point the fallen devotee eventually comes to the conclusion that one cannot enjoy this material world and that one should resume devotional service in order to be happy. So at least we should try to start off our devotional service. Once we start off our devotional service, then we are under the direct protection of Krishna. Now we are not under the law of karma. Now we are under the protection of Krishna. Now whatever suffering or happiness comes, it's coming from Krishna. Sometimes maybe it's not in our karma to suffer so much, but still we are suffering. It's because Krishna is giving us a suffering so that we can be purified and we can come back to our senses and realize our goal. Does devotional service end with liberation? Once we get mukti, once we get liberation, then does devotional service end?
No, never.
Never? It never ends? Do we do
Devotional
devotional service even in Vaikuntha and Goloka?
We are doing bhakti in Vaikuntha also with Krishna, na? That's called bhakti too, na?
But
It
devotional
actually
service
starts on the
ends.
platform of liberation.
What's that? Sorry?
It actually starts on the platform of liberation.
Devotional service starts on the platform of liberation. Okay. Anybody wants to add?
I mean, devotional service end with liberation. Okay, once you're liberated, now the devotional service has ended. No, it has not ended. How could devotional service ever be ended? It's
Yeah,
just
because
not.
it is, yes, we said that it is abhyayam, no? It is eternally existing. So eternally existing means it will continue to exist even after mukti. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, devotional service is eternally existing. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. So devotional service continues even after liberation. Even after we attain mukti, even when we are in Goloka, Vaikuntha, no matter where we are engaged in the service of the Lord because eternally we are servants. So in conclusion, Srila Prabhupada writes, see, Srila Prabhupada has written a very long purport to this particular verse, very, very important verse and very long purport, which of course we all should read over and over and over again. In conclusion, Srila Prabhupada writes, thus the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. So this title, the most confidential knowledge. What is the most confidential knowledge? Most confidential knowledge is simply this. Krishna is the God of love. He can be conquered by pure love. Therefore, bhakti is glorious. And that is the most confidential knowledge. This whole chapter deals with Ananya Bhakti, deals with pure knowledge, and therefore the title pure devotional service. I'm sorry, the most confidential knowledge. Okay, let's see one more shloka and then we will end the class.
अश्रद्धधानाः पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्युसंसारवर्त्मनि.
Translation: Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, a conqueror of enemies. Therefore, you return to the path of birth and death in this material world.
So Krishna is talking about who cannot attain him. Those who are not faithful. See, Krishna says ashraddhadana. Those who are not faithful in devotional service, then such a person cannot attain me, and they return to the path of birth and death. What is Arjuna's name here? By what name is Krishna referring to Arjuna in this shloka?
Conqueror of enemies.
What's that?
Parantapa.
Parantapa. What does that name mean?
Oh, killer of the
Conqueror,
enemies.
conquerors
Killer
of enemies.
enemies.
Healer of
Okay.
the enemy.
Yes. Okay, so coming back to Shraddha, faith. Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. So, Shraddha or faith, what we need is the faith. And what is that faith? Faith means that when we render service to Krishna, then all other activities are considered automatically to be done, automatically has been performed. Just as how if we water the root of the tree, then the water is distributed to all parts of the tree. We don't have to separately water the leaf, the flowers, the fruits. No, like that, when one renders devotional service to Krishna, then one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. We saw this in the last verse of chapter 8, no, where Krishna spoke about how one. Let's go to that. I'm reading from the last verse of chapter 8. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these. And at the end, he reaches the supreme abode. So this is exactly what is Shraddha, what is faith. One should have the faith that yes, by engaging in devotional service to Krishna, automatically I'm getting the results of studying the Vedas, of doing all the yagyas, doing all the tapasya, giving all the charity, doing all kinds of philosophical or pursuing philosophical fruitive activities. Everything is considered to be done. So this faith is important. So Krishna says that if you do not have the faith, then you cannot attain me. Then you will return to the path of birth and death. So this is the verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the example. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all living entities. So one may further ask, whom or what should we place our faith on? On Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And that the Lord will definitely maintain and protect us. Also have the faith that by following his instructions, the result will be all auspicious. What is a symptom of faith? That one abides by the instructions of Krishna. If one is abiding by the instructions, then it shows that yes, we have the faith. The faithless will find this path very difficult to follow. See, sometimes people, they give excuses. Oh no, I cannot give up meat eating. Oh, I cannot give up onion and garlic. I cannot give up tea. It's because there is no faith. They say this path is very difficult. I don't want to accept a bona fide spiritual master on this path. It's very, very difficult. It's because there is no faith. So what is the destiny of the faithless? Obviously, one has to return to the path of birth and death. So if we are not willing to surrender fully, then obviously we are far away from the goal, and obviously it's going to take many more lifetimes. Expected conclusion after reading Bhagavad Gita: give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Lord with full faith. See, faith leads to practice, And as we practice more and more, it reinforces our faith. So this is a cycle. Faith and practice. Now let's take an example. One is diseased and goes to the doctor, and the doctor imposes some restrictions on food and lifestyle. So the doctor says, okay, you have to eat this food. You cannot have a very lavish lifestyle. You have to cut down on your alcohol. You have to cut down on your parties, your social circle. You have to, remain indoors, whatever. So therefore, what does this person do? One who has faith in the doctor, he will follow his instructions. One who does not follow the instructions, there are two possibilities. Either he has no faith in the doctor, therefore he's not following the instruction, or secondly, his faith has been subdued. Why his faith has been subdued is because his desire to enjoy, his desire for sense gratification is so high that his faith is subdued. So the same thing applies to all of us. If we have faith in Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, then we will follow the instructions. If we are not following the instructions, then maybe we do not have faith in Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Or on the other side, yes, we have faith in Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, but we are subduing that faith because our desire to enjoy senses is far greater than the amount of faith we have in Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. How can faith be created? We can create faith by associating with devotees. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So we can get faith by associating with devotees, because we see how other devotees, they are enjoying it, how they are relishing devotional service, how they are able to get so many realizations. Like that, when we see somebody else has done this experiment and has done this experiment successfully, has got the desired results, then we also feel encouraged to do the same. So we follow in the footsteps of the past acharyas. Hearing from non-devotees may lead to some information, but it will not lead to transformation. Maybe we can read, we can hear. See, there are so many professional reciters. No, they recite Bhagavatam or they recite Bhagavad Gita and they charge money. There is something called as a Bhagavad Saptah. They will come to your house. They will do a Bhagavatam program for one whole week, and then they will go away. They will charge. I have heard that it is in lakhs, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees also they charge for 1 week of Bhagavad Saptah. See, one can, but if they are not devotees, no, if one is hearing the same subject matter but from a non-devotee, it will give you some information, but they will not be able to transform your heart. That transformation can come only when you hear from bona fide sources, only when you hear from a devotee. So there are 3 divisions of Krishna conscious men. A faithful devotee is truly eligible candidate for the loving service of the Lord. According to one's faith, one is classified as a topmost devotee, intermediate devotee, and an inferior devotee. So Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari. Topmost devotee is Uttama, intermediate is Madhyama, and inferior is Kanishta. So Kanishta Adhikari is what? One whose faith is soft and pliable. We are talking about faith, no? So Kanishta Adhikari, his faith is soft and pliable and he is called a neophyte. But by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. A Madhyama Adhikari, he is not very expert in argument and logic based on the revealed scriptures, but has firm faith. So such a person is considered a second-class devotee. So what does this mean? A Madhyamadhikari, he has firm faith, but he may not be able to convince somebody else to take to Krishna consciousness. He may not be able to convince somebody else to take to devotional service. So he is not very expert in argument and logic, but he himself has firm faith. No, his faith is not shaken. And an Uttamadhikari, he is expert in logic, argument, and the revealed scriptures, and also has firm faith. So Uttamadhikari, he has firm faith, and he can also convince somebody else to take to Krishna consciousness. That is an Uttama Adhikari. Just now we have given this example in the past of a kabaddi match. In kabaddi, the person has to go to the opposite side, tag the person, and he has to come back. No, so Uttama Adhikari, he has firm faith. He will not be lost when he's trying to preach to the others, right? He gives association. He will not take association from people who are sinful. No, we should try as far as possible. When we associate with devotees, we take association. When we associate with non-devotees, we try to give association. No, we should not associate with non-devotees and become like them, not become sinful. No, we should not be lost. So kabaddi match, an expert player will go to the opposite side, he will tag the person and he will come back. So Uttamadhikari, he will preach to the non-devotees and he will make them also devotees, and he also continues to remain a devotee. But if a person goes to the opposite side, he does not tag the person and he gets out. No, he doesn't come back. He's not able to come back. So that is a Kanishta Adhikari. He cannot preach, and plus his faith also is very soft, and very easily he may be able to not come back. He may be lost in the wrong association. So see, depending on faith, there is classification of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada, he says this this is a conversation from a morning walk. Real knowledge is to see everywhere Krishna. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. The supervision of Krishna. This is real knowledge. Not only to appreciate, but to explain it also. Kanishta Adhikari will appreciate but cannot explain how it is being done. Madhyamadhikari will explain. That is a preacher. And Uttamadhikari, he thinks that everyone knows. He does not see that somebody knows, somebody does not know. He sees everyone knows. That is Uttamadhikari. He does not make any distinction. So what is Prabhupada saying here is, Madhyamadhikari makes that distinction that yes, somebody knows and somebody does not know. So he's preaching to those who do not know. But Uttamadhikari, he does not make any distinction. He thinks that everybody knows, everyone is equal. So then the devotee is asking him. So he does not preach. Then Prabhupada says, no, he is Paramahamsa. He does not preach means he preaches, but he comes to the second class platform. So the first class platform means he does not make any distinction between devotee and non-devotee. He sees everyone is engaged in Krishna's service. So an Uttamadhikari, he comes from the first class platform, he comes to the second class platform, and then he preaches. Srila Prabhupada is explaining. Anyway, I think we'll stop here. We'll continue this in the next class if Krishna so sanctions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Does anybody have any question?
Mataji, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You say the devotional service is Susukam. So I feel many times it is very difficult to chant attentively. So can you please guide?
Yeah, sure. Srila Prabhupada explains that it's all about hearing. You just hear what you are chanting. So then automatically the focus is there. As we chant, if we realize that it's like bringing the mind back. As soon as you realize that the mind is wandering, you bring it back. It wanders because we are not hearing our japa. If we are hearing our japa, then we are doing our chanting attentively. So Srila Prabhupada says that there is no question of the mind. It's all about hearing. So as far as possible, we should hear what we chant. Does that answer your question?
So then it will become Susukam, that joyfully performed.
Yeah, as we do it more and more and more, we get more and more realizations. No, it's a lifetime process. It's not something that has a start date and an end date. As we engage more and more in devotional service, it will become easier. We develop the taste. No, initially when we start off, we have so many anarthas that we are carrying from the previous lifetimes. So many impressions are there on our mind. So as we engage in devotional service more and more, we get more realizations. So therefore, then it eases out with time. But we have to remain steady. That's the key. Okay?
Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Anything else? Okay, then, since there are no more questions or comments, we will end here. We'll see you in the next class if Krishna so sanctions. Vancha kalpataru vyascha kripa sindhu vyayevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank
Sanat.
you.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are you weak?